Stop being a rebel, Graham. Hey, it's Thursday, May 13th, and we're going to get to special advanced children and getting into death of people and stuff like that. We've just sold kids a bunch of sugar. We're going to see what kind of issues we have there. It is hat day today. I mean, those of you at home, you're wearing a hat anyway. You can wear whatever you want. It's just for the special children who are here. And let's see, schedule coming up. So you guys are aware of things. We are going to go over end of chapter 5 today, possibly start chapter 6 with you. We're going to talk about the reunion scene today, and then we're also going to talk about the death of Vizzini today. We're going to talk about who the man in black is. We're going to talk about giant rodents that attack people. We're going to try and get through all of that stuff. Then the quiz tomorrow is over all of chapter 5. So to help you out that way, it goes all the way up through page 218. If you have not gotten to page 218, that's fine. But we are going to be giving away stuff there. I mean, spoilers, just so that you're aware of things. But that'll be the quiz covers up through page 218. Then here's where the struggle is going to kick in for many of you. Tuesday, we talk about the end of the book. So it's going to go all the way to the end from there. And I'm fully aware some of you guys are not going to be able to get to the end of the book by that point, which is fine. But we are running out of time. I literally have, after today, 3 days with you. So one of those days is going to be spent talking about end of book. From there, I'm aware, but the last day is a half day, so that's why I don't really count that. I don't know how much time I actually get with you guys. Me still talking, you can tell, because I'd say my mouth is moving, but you can't see it, so just trust me on that one. And so Monday, I'm going to give you half the class period to either take test or read book. Those of you who have finished book, you'll take test and then have the rest of the time. Those of you who have not finished book, you'll have to spend your time reading book. The test is not due for a week. So I'm going to assign it on Monday for you guys Tuesday. It does not come due until Sunday. So if you can't get it done on that day, that's fine. I'm officially not making it due until the weekend before school gets out. The idea being some of you guys may need more time to read. The drawback is we are talking about the last several chapters because I don't have any more time to not talk about them. A week from today, next Thursday, I start telling my end of the year stories to you, which will be next week at this time. We're going to be partway through me getting arrested at 8 years old. And then we're going to jump to my, so yeah, I started early. I was advanced. And then we're going to get to my second, which is going to be me getting in trouble when I was 14 years old. And then that next week on Tuesday, so for you, your last full day of school, I get to my last 2 stories, which is my last 4 choice, and then also my big last talky thing I do with you. Yes, you will also see me the very, very last day of school because you have all 7 class periods. Problem is that day is also pure chaos. So I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with you because a lot of times they interrupt classes for other things. So I cannot plan for that day for things. I will still do things with you. I just don't know what else is going to happen on that day. So yes, that's why I'm not counting that as one of our days, because in the past they've interrupted that and not given me the whole time. So I have the 3 full class periods I get to do things left with you, and then 1 wonky class period. And then you are done and we get to move on. So that's why we are running out of time as far as things go. Harvey, I have no idea. So yeah, I know that they're talking about them, but beyond that, I have not the slightest idea. I'm assuming they're coming in at some point, but I got nothing. Griffin. No, because I told you ahead of time and you chose to buy them anyway. Yeah. Minor. Yes, you are correct. They are now happy to shoot all children. Jay. It does at 2:45. Yeah, for those of you who are wanting to take it, I did unlock the quiz for tomorrow. It unlocks at 2:45 today. And just like all of my quizzes, you have 2 attempts on it. On the big final Princess Bride one, you have 2 attempts on it. It'll be the same thing. And you can request multiple attempts if you need them, and that's fine with me too. And you also have a week to finish reading and stuff like that. So I'm trying to be as nice as I can as far as that goes. Go with these kids. I get to use you next year to try and brag and stuff like that. And then the kids who spent points, apparently some of it was good with the sugar. I still got some kids to buy things. Let's see, now we get a chance to actually get to the learning bits and the Princess Bride and stuff like that. What did you send me, child? Sorry. It's a thanks, Eli. That is something. All right. Chapter 5. Let's go with. So the part you guys read was Fezzik's backstory. So I already got to Inigo's backstory, which was the sword person. And then we got to Fezzik's backstory, who is big giant person. With his backstory, we find out what the national sport of Turkey is. Not wrestling, fighting. Which specifically, they make it fighting. It's just punching people. Not boxing, not wrestling, just fighting. And that's when we find out, what? Right. And then we find out that apparently Fezzik's parents love him very much because that's when his parents make him punch him when he's like 6 years old and he breaks his father's jaw. And then that's when they find out that he's a good fighter. And then they just went ahead and sent him off to go into fighting things when you're 6 and make all kinds of money off him, which is exactly what every parent wants to do, is abuse their child and make fat cash off of them. And then we got to Fezzik, who then fights the man in black because he's good at fighting. What is supposed to be Fezzik's form of fighting, or how is he supposed to beat the man in black? Throw giant rock and smash head. Why does he not throw giant rock and smash head? There you go. He's trying to be a good person. Fezzik is not as much of a horrible person. And then who wins between Man in Black and Fezzik? How does Man in Black beat him? He's so used to fighting groups of people, he fights a single person, and then Man in Black like chokes him, and then he passes out and dies. Any other questions from there that I did not cover that bit before I get to Man in Black versus Vizzini, and then why I'm wearing the shirt I am? Okay. Who doesn't die? Oh, Fezzik? He does not die. I apologize. He just gets passed out. He gets choked until he passes out. He doesn't die till later. You guys are fun to mess with. Obviously. I found this for you. I have a different map of Florin and Gilder. So if you look at the front of your book, it's a different map than, things are roughly in the same places, but it's overall slightly different of things. So that's why I was putting it up there for you guys to get a chance to see things. But I'm going to make that disappear here in just a second. No, I was. Yeah. Sorry, no. If there's drugs in there, it's not from me. I just bought them from the store last night. So apparently they're just store bought. So did you not know that stores sell candy? I'm sorry to shock you with this. All right. We might have different definitions of what obviously means. So now the part where we're going to get to Vizzini and Man in Black facing each other. That's the scene I wanted to read, and then we're going to get to the reunion scene, and then we're going to talk about the Man in Black and who he turns out to be, and stuff. I feel the same way. Vizzini was waiting for him. Indeed, he'd set out a little picnic spread. From the knapsack that he always carried, he had taken a small handkerchief, and on it he placed 2 wine goblets. In the center was a small leather wine holder, and beside it some cheese and some apples. The spot could not have been lovelier. And I googled pictures of picnic on a rock. There you go. The spot could not have been lovelier. A high point of the mountain path with a splendid view all the way back to Florin Channel. Buttercup lay helpless beside the picnic, gagged and tied and blindfolded. Vizzini held his long knife against her white throat. Welcome, Vizzini called when the Man in Black was almost upon him. The Man in Black stopped and surveyed the situation. You've beaten my Turk, Vizzini said. It would seem so. And now it is down to you, it is down to me. So that would seem too, the Man in Black said, edging just a half step closer to the hunchback's long knife. With a smile, the hunchback pushed the knife harder into Miss Buttercup's throat. It was about to bring blood. If you wish her dead, by all means, keep moving. Better. No sound now beneath the moonlight. I understand completely what you are trying to do, the Sicilian said finally, and I want it quite clear. I resent your behavior. You are trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen, and I think it quite ungentlemanly. Can you explain? The man in black began, starting to edge forward. You're killing her! The Sicilian screamed, shoving harder with the knife. A drop of blood appeared now at Buttercup's throat, red against white. The man in black retreated. Let me explain, he said again, but from a distance. Again, the hunchback interrupted. There is nothing you can tell me I do not already know. I have not had the schooling equal to some Gesundheit, but for knowledge outside of books, there is no one in the world close to me. People say I read mind, but it is not in all honesty true. I merely predict the truth using logic and wisdom, and I say you are a kidnapper. Admit it. I will admit that as a ransom item, she has value, nothing more. Oh, by the way, real quick, those of you who actually did read and you now know who the man in black is and things have been revealed, this takes on a slightly different thing than the first time you read it, thinking a different thing about man in black. So as I go through, it's probably why I want to read it is for that second time through, like, oh. So hopefully it means a bit more to you. Yeah. I've been instructed to do certain things to her. It is very important that I follow my instructions. If I do this properly, I will be in demand for life. And my instructions do not include ransom. They include death. So your explanations are meaningless. We cannot do business together. You wish to keep her alive for ransom, whereas it is terribly important to me that she stop breathing in the very near future. Has it occurred to you that I have gone to great effort and expense, as well as personal sacrifice to reach this point? The man in black replied. And that if I fail now, I might get very angry. And if she stops breathing in the very near future, it is entirely possible that you will catch the same fatal illness. I have no doubt you can kill me. Any man who can get by amigo and pheasant would have no trouble disposing of me. However, has it occurred to you that if you did get that, then neither of us would get what we want? You having lost your ransom item, me my life. I fear so. I cannot compete with you physically, and you are no match for my brains. You are that smart. There are no words to contain all my wisdom. I am so cunning and crafty and clever, so filled with deceit, guile, and chicanery, such a knave, so shrewd, cagey, as well as calculating, diabolical as I am vulpine, tricky as I am untrustworthy. Well, not words invented yet to explain how great my brain is, but let me put it this way. The world is several million years old, and several billion people have at one time or another trod upon it. But I, Vizzini the Sicilian, am, speaking with pure candor and modesty, the slickest, sleekest, slyest, wiliest fellow who has yet come down the pike. In that case, said the man in black, I challenge you to a battle of wits. Vizzini had a smile. For Princess, you read my mind. It just seems that way. I told you. It's merely logic and wisdom. To the death. Correct again. I accept. Begin the battle. Pour the wine, said the man in black. Vizzini filled the two goblets with deep red liquid. The man in black pulled from his dark clothing a small packet and handed it to the hunchback. Open it and inhale, but be careful not to touch. Vizzini took the packet and followed instructions. I smell nothing. The man in black took the packet again. What you do not smell is called iocane powder. It is odorless, tasteless, and dissolves immediately in any kind of liquid. It also happens to be the deadliest poison known to man. Vizzini was beginning to get excited. I don't suppose you'd hand me the goblets, said the man in black. Vizzini shook his head. Take them yourself. My long knife does not leave her throat. The man in black reached in the goblets. He took them and turned away. Vizzini cackled aloud in anticipation. The man in black busied himself a long moment. Then he turned again with a goblet in each hand. Very carefully, he put the goblet in his right hand in front of Vizzini, and put the goblet in his left hand across the kerchief from the hunchback. He sat down in front of the left hand goblet and dropped the empty iocane packet by the cheese. Your guess, he said. Where is the poison? Guess? the zini cried. I don't guess. I think. I ponder. I decide. I'm sorry. I deduce. Then I decide. I never guess. The battle of wits has begun, said the man in black. It ends when you decide and we drink the wine and find out who is right and who is dead. We both drink, need I add, and swallow naturally at precisely the same time. It's all so simple, said the hunchback. All I have to do is deduce from what I know of you the way your mind works. Are you the kind of man who would put the poison into your own glass or into the glass of his enemy? You're stalling. I'm relishing is what I'm doing. It has challenged my mind in years, and I love it. By the way, smell both glasses. Sorry. May I smell both goblets? Be my guest. Just be sure to put them down the same way you found them. The Sicilian sniffed his own glass. Then he reached across the kerchief for the goblet of the man in black and sniffed that. As you said, odorless. As I said, you're also stalling. The Sicilian smiled and stared at the wine goblets. Now a great fool would place the poison in his own goblet because he would know that only another great fool would reach first for what he was given. I am clearly not a great fool, so I will clearly not reach for your wine. Choice. No, because you knew I was not a great fool, so you would know that I would never fall for such a trick. You would count on it, so I will clearly not reach for mine either. Keep going. I intend to. A moment. You have now decided the poison cup is most likely in front of you, but the poison is a powder made from iocane, and iocane comes only from Australia, and Australia, as everyone knows, is people with criminals, and criminals are used to having people not trust them, as I don't trust you, which means I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. I get nervous. But again, you must have suspected I knew the origins of iocane, so you would have known I knew about the criminals and criminal behavior, and therefore I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me. Truly, you have a dizzying intellect. You have beaten my turf, which means you are exceptionally strong, and exceptionally strong men are convinced that they are too powerful ever to die, too powerful even for iocane poison, so you could have put it in your cup, trusting on your strength to save you. Thus, I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. The man in black was very nervous now. But you also bested my Spaniard, which means you must have studied, because he studied many years for his excellence. And if you can study, you are clearly more than simply strong. You are aware how mortal we all are, and you do not wish to die, so you would have kept the poison as far from yourself as possible. Therefore, I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me. You're just trying to make me give something away with all this chatter, said the man in black angrily. Well, it won't work. You'll learn nothing from me, that I promise you. I've already learned everything from you. I know where the poison is. Genius could have concluded as much. Fortunate for me, there happened to be one, said the hunchback, growing more and more amused now. You cannot frighten me, said the man in black, but there was fear all through his voice. Shall we drink then? Pick, choose, quit dragging it out. You don't know, you couldn't know. The Sicilian only smiled at the outburst. And a strange look crossed his features, and he pointed off behind the man in black. What in the world could that be? The man in black turned around and looked. I don't see anything. Oh, well, I could have sworn I saw something. The matter. Sicilian began to laugh. It's so funny, said the man in black. I'll tell you in a minute, said the hunchback. But first, let's drink. And he picked up his own wine goblet. The man in black picked up the one in front of him. They drank. You guessed wrong, said the man in black. You only think I guessed wrong, said the Sicilian, his laughter ringing louder. That's what's so funny. I switched glasses when your back was turned. There was nothing for the man in black to say. Oh, cried the hunchback. He fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this. Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line. He was quite cheery until the iocane powder took effect. The man in black stepped quickly over the corpse, then roughly ripped the blindfold from the princess's eyes. I heard everything that happened, Buttercup began. Then she said, oh, because she'd never been next to a dead man before. You killed him. I let him die laughing, said the man in black. Pray I do as much for you. He lifted her, slashed her bonds away, put her on her feet, and started to pull her along. Please, give me a moment to gather myself. The man in black released his grip. Buttercup rubbed her wrist, stopped, massaged her ankles. She took a final look at the Sicilian. All that time, it was your cup that was poisoned. They were both poisoned, said the man in black. I spent the past 2 years building up immunity to iocane powder. But looked up at him. He was terrifying to her, masked and hooded and dangerous. His voice was strained and rough. Who are you? She asked. And there was not her mom. So that brings us through our iocane powder scene, and now Vizzini is dead. Fezzik, not so much. Inigo, not so much. Vizzini, yeah, he's definitely dead. Apparently, iocane powder is not a thing you come back easily from. Joey. Technically, it is a thing you can do. People who take drugs, like what I put in the gummy worms, it's the same thing. Slowly, you build. What happens is anybody who does drugs, your body builds up a tolerance. That's why people overdose, because as it goes along, you get stronger and you get more and more withholding from it. So iocane is just a type of one of the many different drugs that are out there. So I'm assuming it's probably possible on some level. Yeah, Sturgeon already came by. I know. It's half the size. If you turn it sideways, it's a half sheet. So they just say they go like that way. Yeah. So they cut their production cost in half. But I'm not fond of it, obviously. But what are you gonna do? Not my choice. I know, but I have to redo everything anyway, so I'm gonna have to redo those two. I do enjoy how much both you and Sturgeon immediately ran down here to share such things with me. Knowing, and Sturgeon immediately went to go tell Valerie how upset I was going to be to help prepare me for it.
Not like you keep these.
No, I mean, but hey, on the bright side, that takes up half as much room. See, it's winning. That's how I look at it. Iocane powder. Oh, yeah. Flippo. Yeah, take little bits of it. Yeah. Just a little bit on your tongue. Makes you sick. And then the next time you take more on your tongue, you keep like each time it's going to make you sick.
And then you die.
And then that means you go too far and you have to reset and begin again. And so yeah, you just build up so you can take more and more each time. It's the same thing people do with like meth and cocaine. It's just that you get the good parts that go with it. Maybe there's a good part that goes with iocane. It's just that people die too fast to find out. I don't know, because it comes from things. Probably comes from a cane. Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, but he had to make the other man drink it because he had the knife to the princess's throat. And so that's why he had to have him drink it by choice to save the princess. Because apparently he cares about the princess. Good question. Because we find out who the man in black is. And who is the man in black? Yeah, we find out the man in black is Wesley this whole time. So as we find out, Wesley did not die from the Dread Pirate Robbers. Turns out that he was not dead, and now Wesley is the Dread Pirate Robbers. Now, this whole beginning part, or not beginning part, this whole part going through it, where the man in black is yelling at Buttercup, realize he's upset with her. As far as Wesley knows, he promised that he was going to marry Buttercup, and Buttercup was going to marry him, and they were going to be together. And then finally, he gets free of this whole pirate thing, comes back to marry her, and finds out that she's now going to marry some prince. So he's upset. He figures that she legit just ditched him, dipped out, and is like, I'm going to go marry myself a prince. So when he shows up, he's angry at her because he assumes that she loves Humperdinck. And then he finds out that she does not love Humperdinck, and she still loves him. And then we get to the reunion scene. Jay? I do, but I can't give it to you. Yeah, you go to the nurse, though. She can give it to you. They frown on me giving kids any drug that's not sugar, as weird as that may be. You are correct. All right. Then, now that we have Wesley and Buttercup back together, they have a reunion scene thing that I'm going to read to you. She does, and that's when she also tells him to die. She was like, I hope you die. And that's when he yells, as you wish, as he goes down the hill and stuff like that. It's so romantic. Which is why we have the romantic reunion scene thing. Which, hang on, home children, we're gonna take a thing real quick. Hang on, let's do this. We're gonna be right back. Go watch a commercial. Hey, we're back from our commercial break. And most kids did not have too many issues. So with the reunion scene, I want to read that. It says, if you, once again, if you read the reunion scene, it'll go through and say you can send in for it. I sent in for it. So I'm going to be showing it to you here in just a second, the thing that you can send in and get. Although now I think your version of the book, because you have a newer version than I do, like yours has a website you can go to. It's the exact same thing. And so the website does the same thing I'm going to be giving to you. Andrew. The one about the pickles? Literally, they were all right here, weren't they? They weren't paying attention. That's a them issue. If the class average is 90% on the Friday quiz coming up tomorrow, then I will eat a pickle in front of you on Tuesday. But if it is below 90%, then you guys cannot buy anything on Tuesday, even if I bring in new stuff. Amanda. Done. Reunion scene. Let's jump to there. Me either. Actually, I shouldn't have eaten at all. 192. So at this point, we now have Wesley is revealed, and him and Buttercup love each other very much. And let's find out. So I'm starting at the bottom of the little break thing. It says, Wesley indeed had not the least idea that he was racing dead into the fire swamp. He knew only once Buttercup was down at the ravine bottom beside him that to climb out would take, as Prince Humperdinck had assumed, too much time. Wesley noted only that the ravine bottom was flat rock and heading in the general direction he wanted to follow. So he and Buttercup fled along, both of them very much aware that gigantic forces were following them and undoubtedly cutting into their lead. The ravine grew increasingly sheer as they went along, and Wesley soon realized that whereas once he probably could have helped her through the climb, now there was simply no way of doing so. He had made his choice, and there was no changing possible. Wherever the ravine led was their destination. And that, quite simply, was that. At this point in the story, my wife wants it known that she feels violently cheated, not being allowed the scene of her conciliation on the ravine floor between the lovers. My reply to her, that was Morgenstern interrupting himself. Now this is Goldman interrupting Morgenstern, who interrupted himself. This is me, Goldman. And I'm not trying to be confusing, but the above paragraph that I'm cutting into now is verbatim Morgenstern. Verbatim is a fancy word that means word for word, not changed. He was continually referring to his wife in the unabridged book, saying that she loved the next section, or she thought that, all in all, the book was extraordinarily brilliant. Mrs. Morgenstern was rarely anything but supportive to her husband, like some wives I could mention. Sorry about that, Helen. But here's the thing. I got rid of almost all the intrusions when he told us what she thought. I didn't think the device had it a whole lot. And besides, he was always complimenting himself through her. And today we know that hyping something too much does more harm than good, as any defeated political candidate will tell you when he pays his television bills. The thing of it is, I left this particular reference in because, for once, I totally happen to agree with Mrs. Morgenstern. I think it was unfair not to show the reunion. So I wrote one of my own, what I felt Buttercup and Wesley might have said, but Hiram, my editor, felt that made me just as unfair as Morgenstern here. If you're going to abridge a book in the author's own words, you can't go around sticking your own in. That was Hiram's point. And we really went round and round, arguing over, I guess, like a period of a month in person, through letters, on the phone. Finally, we compromised to this extent. This. What you're reading in the regular type is strict Morgenstern, verbatim. Been cut, yes. Changed, no. But I got Hiram to agree that Harcourt would at least print up my scene. Valentine has agreed to do the same, and now that this is back at Harcourt, they've taken it up again too. It's all of 3 pages, big deal. And if any of you want to see what it came out like, drop a note or a postcard to blah, 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 or there's a website listed, blah, 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 blah. the last part of that is just him babbling on about he wants you to send it in because he doesn't think anyone will. He says, hey, if you send it in, you'll get the information. So that's why that whole last that little babbling thing is. So when you send it in, this is what you get. There we go. You get a letter that gets sent back to you. I've printed off letters so I get a chance to read it here, but I put it up there for those of you who want to see it or at home kids to make it easier for you. So this is what you get back. It says, dear reader, thank you for sending in. And no, this is not the reunion scene because of a certain roadblock named Hermit Shaw. As soon as bound books were ready, I got a call from my lawyer, Charlie. You may not remember, but Charlie's the one I called from California to go down in the blizzard and buy The Princess Bride from the used book dealer. Anyway, he usually begins with Talmudic humor, wisdom jokes. Like this, he just says, Bill, I think you better get down here. And before I'm even allowed a why, he has right away, if you can. Panic. I zoom down, wondering who could have died. Did I flunk my tax audit? What? His secretary lets me into his office, and Charlie says, this is Mr. Shaw, Bill. And there he is, sitting in the corner, hands on his briefcase, looking exactly like an oily version of Peter Lorre. I really expected him to say, give me the falcon you need, forced to heal you. Peter Lorre is a reference you're not going to know. He's like an actor from the old black and white movies, but he always played like the really slimy bad guy, or like the guy who worked for the bad guy and would show up and yell. So that's who they're saying this guy looks like. In that role, he was bald, and apparently because he was supposed to be a slimy bad guy, and apparently fish are slimy bad guys. Mr. Shaw is a lawyer, Charlie goes on, and this next was said underlined. He represents the Morgenstern estate. Who knew? Who could have dreamed such a thing existed? Who would have thought a kid would try to be on their phone while you were reading and thinking they were getting away with it and wondering why they lost points? In a state of a man dead at least 1,000,000 years that no one ever heard of. I mean, over here anyway. Perhaps you'll give me the falcon now, Mr. Shaw said. That's not true. What he said was, perhaps you would like a few words with your client alone now. And Charlie nodded, and out he went. And once he was gone, I said, Charlie, my God, I never figured. And he said, did Harcourt? And I said, not that they ever mentioned. And he said, oh, the grunting sound lawyers make when they know they just backed a loser. What does he want? He said, a meeting with Mr. Jovanovich, Charlie answered. Now, William Jovanovich is a pretty busy fellow, but it's amazing when you're confronted with a potential multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, how fast you can wedge in a meeting. We trooped over. All the Harcourt brass was there. I'm there. Charlie, Mr. Shaw, who had sweat in an igloo, he's so swarthy, is screaming. Harcourt's lawyer started things. We're terribly, terribly sorry, Mr. Shaw. It's an unforgivable oversight. And please accept our sincerest apologies, Mr. Shaw said. That's the beginning, since all you do is defame and ridicule the greatest modern master of Florence prose, who also happened to be for many years a friend of my family. And the business head of Harcourt said, all right, how much do you want? One big mistake. Great, Mr. Shaw cried. You think this is petty blackmail that brings us together? Resurrection is the issue, sir. Morgenstern must be undefiled. You will publish the original version. And now, look at me. In the unabridged form. I said, oh, well, I mean, yeah, I swear, true. There's that reunion scene business we printed up, but there's not liable to be a rush on that. So it's all passed as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Shaw wasn't done with me. You dare to defame a master's characters are going to put your words in their mouths? No, sir. No, I say. It's just a little thing. A couple of pages only. Then Mr. Jovanovich started talking softly. Bill, I think we might skip sending out the reunion scene just now. Don't you think? I made a nod. Then he turned to Mr. Shaw. We'll print the unabridged. You're a man who's interested in immortality for his client, and there aren't as many of you around in publishing as there used to be. You're a gentleman, sir. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. I like to think I am, at least on occasion. For the first time, he smiled. We all smiled. Very buddy-buddy now. Then, an addendum from Mr. Shaw. Oh, yes, your first printing of the unabridged will be 100,000 copies. So far, there are 13 lawsuits, only 11 involving me directly. Charlie promises nothing will come to court and that eventually Harcourt will publish the unabridged, but legal maneuvering takes time. The copyright on Morgenstern runs out in early 78. That's 1978, when I was born, because the book was written like 1971, before I was born, pre-dinosaur times. And all of you who wrote in are having your names put alphabetically on the computer. So whichever happens first, the settlement or the year, you'll get your copy. The last I was told, Kermit Shaw was willing to come down on his first printing, provided Harcourt agreed to publish the sequel, The Princess Bride, which hasn't been translated into English yet, much less published here. The title of the sequel is Buttercup's Baby, S. Morgenstern's glorious examination of courage matched against the depth of the heart. I'd never heard of it, actually. But there's a PhD candidate at Florinese Lit up at Columbia who's going through it now. I'm kind of interested in what he has to say. William Goldman. So a couple things. One, when you sent in, that was the letter you got back saying that you couldn't get the information because there was a lawsuit going on and you had to wait till 1978 because it came out in 1971. And then in 1978, there's an extension to it. By the way, Buttercup's Baby has now been translated into English and it's in the back of this. This whole thing is not Princess Bride. Princess Bride stops like somewhere like around that area. And then the whole end section of it is Princess Bride's sequel called Buttercup's Baby. No, you don't have to read it. It's purely optional. It's just for those of you who end up not hating Princess Bride or enjoying it, Buttercup's Baby is more of the same. And so it sort of extends the characters and stuff like that. So that's why you get to that back part of it there. And hopefully helps you out. So then in 1978, there was another part that popped up, which said this was sent out in 1978. It says, I'm really sorry about this, but you know the story that ends disregard previous wire, letter follows? Well, you've got to disregard the business about the Morgenstern copyright running out in 1978. That was a definite boo-boo. But Mr. Shaw, being Florinese, has trouble, naturally, with our numbering system. The copyright runs out in 87, not 78. 87 being 1987. Worse, he died. Mr. Shaw, I mean. Don't ask how you could tell. It was easy. One morning, he just stopped sweating. So there it is. What makes it worse was that the whole affair is now in the hands of this kid named, wait for it, Mandrake Shaw. Mandrake moves with all the verve and speed of a lizard flaked out on a riverbank. The only good thing that's happened in this whole mess is I finally got a shot at reading Buttercup's Baby. Up at Columbia, they feel it's definitely superior to The Princess Bride in satirical content. Personally, I don't have the emotional attachment to it, but it's a hell of a story, no question. Give it a look-see when you have a chance. And that was in August 1978. I've read Buttercup's Baby, and I don't like it nearly as much. It's good. There's a lot more action-y, but I like all the humor. And there's not nearly as much humor in the Buttercup's Baby. I like the funniness that goes into it. So that's what was sent out in 1978, saying that you had to wait till 1987. In 1987, this was the next thing that was sent out. It says, all right, this is getting humiliating. Have you been reading in the papers about the trade problems that America is having with Japan? Well, maddening as that may be, since it reflects on a reunion scene, we're also having trade problems with fluorine, which it turns out is our leading supplier of cadmium, which it also turns out NASA is panting for. So all Florence American litigation, which includes the 13 lawsuits, has officially been put on hold. What this means is that the reunion scene, for now, is caught between our need for cadmium and diplomatic relations between the two countries. But at least the movie got made. Mandrake Shaw was shown it, and word reached me he even smiled once or twice. Hope springs eternal. And with that, the reunion scene died. Because from there, they kept having issues, and eventually they stopped caring about it. And then Goldman went and died. And so because of that, it sort of died with him. And so the reunion scene was never officially published or released. It was just gone. So that last little bit for you. So that was reunion scene does not officially exist except in your imaginations. As sad as that may be. Then it does not exist at all.
I have none.
That's almost like an imagination. Let's see, with the princess at the end, let's see the chapter. Oh, For the end bits, for those of you who might have questions as far as that goes, I gotta do one thing before I forget. Into that kid. Mean, not just you. There's other kids I get to be mean to. No, I'm just being mean to the kids working on other homework and also on iPads and also on phones. Wasn't using your name out loud. And then we got to see past the reunion scene. We get to Fire Swamp. Oh, this, by the way, for home children, this is why I'm wearing the shirt I'm wearing today. Because on there it's all the connections. So you have the as you wish part, and then on the outside, what are the things on the outside? Those are the rodents of unusual size, and then you have the mask for the man in black, and then you have the goblets for the Iocane, and then you have the swords for Inigo, and then we find out who the six-fingered man is also. Who's the man with the six fingers? The nobleman turns out to be Count Rugen, who we've been seeing this entire time. So the one who went to go creepily check out Buttercup is the same guy who also killed Domingo Montoya. All the same people going back as we find out who the six-fingered man is as it connects to there. Joey, this magical place called the internet. They sell all kinds of things on there. See, Fire Swamp, we did that. Oh, so Fire Swamp, there's the danger. You have the roads of unusual size, which I have on the shirt. And then you also have the fire that shoots out. And then the third thing was the snow sand, which is just basically like quicksand is the same thing as what the snow sand is. And that's when they had to go through the scary area to get out from there. Then that brings us to the they get out. The prince makes a promise to Buttercup because the prince and Count Rugen capture Wesley and Buttercup as they escape the Fire Swamp. And instead of killing him, Prince makes a promise to Buttercup. What's he going to do to the boy? Basically. And he's going to send him back to his boat. He's like, I'm not going to hurt him, and I'm going to send him back to his boat. And as we all know, the prince is incredibly trustworthy. And so that's what we're going to aim for on that one. Is it because you're going to get moved to the other side of the room again? Is that what's going to make fun of you? Well, I was going to. That is a good point. Maybe I should move Brady this time. Nicely done. That's good teamwork on. Brady gives me stink eye so impressively. With chapter 6, you're going to meet a person called the albino. And so the bottom right. We're trying not to throw shade at them. Goodness gracious, those of you who are judgy. Right. So that would be the albinos. And so what you have here is that we're gonna get to Zoo of Death, and we're gonna find out they have this major role thing that goes into it. And then the albinos are one of the people that is working there. And so then we get through, and there's like 3 chapters left, 6, 7, and 8. They're not as long as chapter 5, but it's still not going to be super short. Again, read what you can going forward to it. If you don't finish it, I'm not going to yell at you, but I am going to be giving stuff away. We're going to have a conversation at the end. I will unlock tests for you guys on Tuesday. For those of you who want to take it on that day, then you should be good to go. If not, then you'll have the rest of that week. And then at this time, a week from today, we should be through my first 2 stories, depending on how things are going. Yeah, that's why you don't go to that page. Well, you made a poor choice. Because that's the name of that chapter. Well, I would tell you, but it kind of gives away what happens in that chapter. Oh, no. That's why I told you it's a lot. There's very action oriented in that Buttercup's baby kind of thing. All right. Home children, I'm done with you for now. I'm going to move on and do let's do a thing. I'm not going to get review yet. We're going to do a separate thing. Is it finding out where your new seat is? Not yet. No, it's 8:35. Yes, it's 8:35. We just started class. Well, eating the pickle is up to you guys. That's why it's up to you guys. I'm not even including fourth period in the average. I don't know if that's better or worse. I don't know. They're in an advanced class like you guys. Let's go ahead and take care